Hello everybody and welcome back. I am so sorry this has taken me so long to make. About a week ago now I made a TikTok video showing you how you can backpack through Australia and Bali. It was very popular and so many of you asked me to make a YouTube video. So here we are finally. The reason that I've been a bit low-key recently and not posting as much as I used to is because I have so much on the cards at the moment. I'm making a website all by myself. If you follow me on TikTok, you'll have seen that I was asking for a web developer a few weeks ago. Turns out web developers are really expensive. I'm sure they're worth the money they charge, but I just do not have £1,000, £2,000 at the moment to put into this. So I'm doing it myself and it's going really well. I'm so excited. The website is going to have so much useful information for you. It's going to have lots of lists of countries with how you can backpack through them, safety information, how you can travel as a solo female traveller, experiences that I've had, travelling with families, travelling with a baby. I'm super duper excited about it and it's going to be such a useful resource for all of you. So that's why I'm not posting as much at the moment, but I'm still getting around to do a few TikToks here and there, and this video is going to show you how you can backpack through Australia, go to Bali, backpack through Bali and have the most amazing time, and most importantly by not breaking the bank. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I promise the videos that are coming are going to be amazing, especially when we're back out traveling and showing you how all these trips do work in real life. So let's get right to it. As you all know, flight prices are up and down and changing all the time. So this trip that I do in the YouTube video isn't going to be exactly the same as the TikTok video, but it's going to give you everything you need to plan your own trip. So whether you want to be in Australia for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, that's completely up to you. I'm just going to show you how I would go about planning this big trip. So the first thing I always do when I'm planning a trip is I think, what months do I want to go in? And for this trip we're going to go in November, December and a little bit of January. So this trip essentially spends 1 month in Australia and then 1 month in Bali. Just to keep it simple, you can adjust that however you want. So I've made this very basic table and it's just got the days on and the dates, and this is for the time period that I want to book my trip. And this is going to really help with the planning, especially when there's lots of different countries, lots of different places you're going to visit. It's useful to have a calendar. Now this is really basic, but this is how my mind works. I'm sure you can make fancier things on a computer, I don't know, but essentially we're going to need something to help us plan. As always, we're going to book the flights first. You need flexibility to find the cheapest flights. So for example, if you'd book 2 weeks in a hotel and tried to buy flights for that trip, you're going to be restricted to exactly when you depart and exactly when you return, and they might be very expensive flights. So it's always best to book your flights first. So we're going to go to Australia in November. That's all we know at the moment. So we want a one-way flight from London to Australia. First I'm going to show you on Skyscanner and then we're going to use Google Flights just so you can see the different ways you can shop around and find the cheapest deals. So if we open Skyscanner and then we go to Explore All, Explore Everywhere, and then we're going to do London or whichever departing airport you want to fly from. And we're just going to write to Australia because at the moment we don't know exactly where the cheapest place is going to be. So just looking at this brief period for any time, it's looking like Melbourne might be the cheapest place to fly to. But let's just select the whole month of November. The whole month of November. And again, Melbourne is looking the cheapest. It's worth noting that Skyscanner is not a live site, so prices are not always as they seem. So if we actually go through and find some dates in November and click through to buy them, we can see what's actually included in the price. So as you can see here, there's 2 stops, a 40-hour flight for £388. Now some people are happy to do all those stops to save the money, so let's have a look if we go to the site and see what's actually included in that £388. So there we are, London to Melbourne. It tells us all the different stops, £388. Oh, but cabin baggage and checked baggage is a paid for option. So let's have a look how much that's going to cost us. For a cabin bag, it's going to add £40, but for an actual check-in bag, it's going to cost £138 more. So, wow, so that's going to be £526.82 for this flight. So I think we can have a shop around and see if we can find anything cheaper. We're going to search for Google Flights and do the exact same search on there for the 3rd of November. So I've put again London to Australia just to see where's going to be the cheapest. So this is giving us an option to fly to Sydney for £508, and that's going to include a bag. And that's only got 2 stops, so it's much better than the flight that we saw on Skyscanner. So if we scroll down, there we have it with Lufthansa. We can... Okay, so this has got 2 stops, it's going to take 25 hours and 45 minutes, and with a bag that's going to cost us £508. Now that's a little bit more expensive than the flight that I had on the TikTok video, but that's just how it goes. So I think that's going to be the best option for this trip. Obviously you can shop around. Maybe you want to fly to Brisbane, maybe you want to fly to Perth, maybe you want to fly to Melbourne. Maybe you have very specific things that you want to do on this trip. I'm just showing you an example of how you can look for the flights and how you can kind of compare the different prices and make the best decision for you. Some people don't mind taking 50 hours to get there and doing 3 or 4 stopovers for a cheaper price. Some people are willing to pay that little bit more to have maybe only 1 or 2 stops and quick stops and get there faster. Completely up to you, but look on a few different comparison websites, shop around, write the different prices down and work out what's going to be the cheapest option. So we now need to do the same thing, but for Australia to Bali, and then later on for Bali back to London. And once we've got our 3 flights, we then have the dates that we're going to be in each country, and we can start to fill in the days, the hostels, what we're going to do, the activities, find the transport, and essentially that's all you have to do. It's that simple. I've just done the exact same process to look for flights from Australia to Bali and found out that Brisbane was the cheapest place to fly from in December. So I did the search for the Brisbane to Bali flights, and then from Bali we're going to fly home to London Gatwick. Now I'm not going to go through that process again with you. We saw the process for the first flight, and the flight prices are going to change all the time, so it's going to be up to you to have a shop around and find which works for you. But I'm just going to show you what I filled in here. So there we've got the initial flight from London to Sydney, and then here we've got the flight Brisbane to Bali, and then right at the bottom here we've got the flight home from Bali to London Gatwick. This is going to be so important while we're planning this trip, and is going to give us a visual representation of the time we're going to be in each country and what accommodation we need to book or consider and what we're going to do to fill our time. It's worth noting that when you go to Australia, you're going to need to get a visa. Now, I'm filming this video as if the pandemic is over and we haven't got any COVID restrictions, because of course at the moment border controls are so tight. Even local citizens are having difficulty getting into Australia, so we're not going right now. This is a plan for November, assuming things are back to normal by then. They may not be, so any bookings you make at the moment, make sure they are flexible. Make sure the flight dates can be changed for free. Make sure any accommodation you book is free cancellation. There are a few exemptions at the moment to get into Australia, so people who are providing necessary work there, people who've been in New Zealand for 14 days before. New Zealand citizens are now getting quarantine-free flights to Australia. There are some exemptions. You can see the exemptions on their Home Office website, but I wouldn't be planning to travel just yet. I'd be looking at later on in the year or earlier next year. COVID numbers are falling, deaths are falling, so I'm really optimistic that travel is going to get back to normal really soon. So for the sake of this video, let's pretend the pandemic is over, and I'm going to show you how you would normally book a visa to Australia. The first visa that most of you are going to need is going to be the e-visitor visa, and this is a screenshot of the screen. Essentially, you're going to have to apply at least 4 months in advance to make sure it's processed and you get the visa back before you travel. So this is something you're going to have to do well in advance. So if you're wanting to stay for a bit longer, so if this is going to be a whole year trip, a 6-month trip, then you're going to want to apply for a different visa, which is the tourist stream visa, and that's going to allow you to stay for up to 12 months. This says the processing time can be up to 8 months, so you're going to want to apply a lot sooner than you would for the e-visitor visa. So essentially they're the 2 main ones that as tourists we're going to need to apply for. Look into the visas before you go, look into the travel restrictions and the COVID restrictions that are in the country, because we have no idea what the situation is going to be like in November. Just keep that in mind when you're planning your trip. So now that we've thought about our visa, we've got all of our flights planned, the next thing we want to think about is how we're going to get around the countries that we're visiting. It's hard to comprehend just how huge Australia is. So you look at the map of Australia and you see Sydney and Melbourne really close together and you think, oh, that'll be easy to drive between. But it's nearly 900 kilometers for that tiny little distance, what looks like a tiny distance on this huge, huge island, because it is just so vast. So a bus or a coach journey between Melbourne and Sydney is going to take 11 hours. So you need to take this into consideration when you're considering how you're going to get about. A flight is only going to take you around 1 hour. So in the same way that we look for the flights at the beginning of this video, you can do the same between different cities within Australia. Obviously flights are going to cost you a little bit more. Personally, I really like to use buses when I'm in a different country, and Greyhound buses is the main bus service in Australia, and they have really, really good bus passes. I've gone to the Greyhound website, and if we scroll down a little bit, you can see the different travel passes. So they have this Wimmet travel pass, hop on, hop, why do I struggle to say that? Hop on, hop off travel passes. So we'll have a look at those just for now. The prices are in Australian dollars, so this isn't in pounds. So just for example, Sydney to Brisbane, hop on, hop off pass, $149. So that's going to be about £83, but you've picked your start point, you've picked your end point, and you can only go from Brisbane to Sydney. You couldn't go down to Melbourne, you couldn't go back and forth, you could only go in that one direction. So if that's what you want to do, this would be perfect for you. But if you want a little bit more flexibility, the Women's Pass is essentially an unlimited bus pass that you can travel here, there and everywhere for a set period of time. So they have 15-day passes, 30-day passes, 60-day passes, depending on how long you're going to be there. For us, we're only going to be in Australia for 32 days, using the flight example that I've picked. So we're going to go for the 30-day pass, because when we arrive in Sydney, we'll probably hang around for a few days and then have the pass start a few days later, and we can head off wherever we want to go. So this is $299 for the 30-day pass. That's around £167. So the 30-day pass is going to be perfect for us. You're going to be able to go anywhere you want in that 30-day period, explore as much as you want. There's night buses, so you can save on accommodation by travelling overnight. And this is personally how I would be getting around Australia if I was going on this backpacking trip. So we've got our flights, we've got our visa, we've now got an unlimited bus pass around Australia. All we have left to do is think about where we want to go. Literally, Australia is your oyster. You can go anywhere you want. You've got a whole month to do it. Think about what you want to do. What's important to you? What landmarks do you want to see? Research it, read everything you can, read all the blogs. Once you've got your route, you can start looking at hostels and working out where's going to be the cheapest place to stay. You don't have to book everything in advance. The fun of backpacking is that you can just be flexible and free. If you meet some people in the hostel who are heading somewhere else that you hadn't thought about, you can just go with them if you haven't got things booked. If you have got things booked, if it's free cancellation, you can cancel and just go off with them. And Hostel World is an amazing app that just lets you book really last minute. It'll show you all the reviews, you can get a real feel for a place, and it's really, really cheap. I'm going to open Hostel World, and I'm going to give you one quick example of how you're going to use the app. I'm not going to book the whole trip for you. So where do we want to go? We want to go to Sydney, because that's where we're going to land. We're landing on the 4th of November. So the 4th of November, and we're going to stay in Sydney for, I think, a decent amount of time so we can get over our jet lag, we can plan what we're going to do, see if we meet anybody. So I'm going to book an initial 5 nights. 5 nights or a week booked when you arrive somewhere gives you that kind of confidence that you've got somewhere to go when you land, and then during that week you can even decide and make a plan from there. Or you can plan it all in advance. Some people like comfort of knowing everything's planned, they know exactly where they're going to be on each day. It's completely up to you. I prefer to travel flexibly, you might prefer to travel with everything booked. It's up to you. Do a search, and then all the different hostels in the vicinity are going to come up. So as you can see, there's all different ways you can filter. I'm going to filter by price, so the cheapest comes first. You can alter the ratings, the price there. You can say whether you want to go in a hotel, a bed and breakfast, a hostel. I'm just going to leave that blank. And then you can choose if you want a female dorm, single rooms, whatever. You can see there's lots of different options on this app. I'm going to select free breakfast because that's going to save us tons of money if we can fill up in the morning and don't have to eat till later on. But look, you can just scroll through them all and spend all day reading them. This one's £9, 9.3 on the reviews. Let's read the reviews. It was a flash for Broadway, no. So people seem to be quite negative actually on all of these reviews, but this is how you're going to do it. You're just going to read through them, and what somebody says is negative might not bother you. If somewhere's really, really loud, somebody might give it a negative review, but if you're there to party and stay up late, that noise isn't going to bother you. In the same way, somebody might give it a negative review because it's a bit too chill, there's no parties going on. you might be there for the chill. So read the reviews and see why people are liking it or not liking it and get a real feel for the place, because if you book a hostel that's not your vibe, you're going to have a terrible time. Some hostels are really lively, some hostels are really chill, and if you're there to party and you pick a chill hostel, you're going to be bored. If you're there to chill and just go to bed early and everybody's partying, you're going to be annoyed. So really, really look into the hostels that you're booking. We'll use this one as an example just for now. You're going to go through, and as you can see, the prices are different depending on whether you pick free cancellation or non-refundable, and then how many people are in the room. So it's cheaper the more beds are in the room. So a 6-bed female dorm there, £11.53, blah, blah, blah. So a standard 8-bed mixed dorm is £9.22. So to keep this trip as budget as possible, we're going to try and keep our rooms below £10 with breakfast. And that's really important for the budgeting that I'm doing. So for this hostel, we're going to pick the standard mixed dorm, 1 bed, that's £9 a night, and it's going to cost £46 for the 5 nights. So I'm going to book that one. I like the look of that hostel. I think the price is really good. And they also have private rooms if you've got a bit more money, but we're doing this example as a really, really budget option. So now that I've booked the first hostel, I've added it to the plan. As you can see, and focus it. There we are, Sydney for £46, and I've put what days we're going to be there. And essentially we're just going to repeat that for all the places we want to go. You'll do the exact same search for Melbourne or Brisbane or wherever you are, and that's the way we're going to plan this entire trip for Australia. Easy enough, right? If we can try and keep the beds at £10 or less, knowing you have that budget is really, really going to keep the price down. And a bed's a bed at the end of the day. If you're staying in hostels, a bed that costs £20, a bed that costs £10, if you're just looking for a place to rest your head at night, as long as it's got some good reviews, you're going to get breakfast, it looks clean and safe. I'm really happy to go with the budget options. So I'm not going to bore you by booking all the rooms in Australia. I showed you how to do it. You can do it yourself. You're going to want to do something different to what I'm going to want to do, to what he's going to want to do, to what she's going to want to do. So let's leave Australia at that. So Bali. The thing about Bali is it's not very big on Hostel World. So for the rooms in Bali, we're going to look on booking.com. Just for an example, there's lots of other platforms you can use to search for rooms. I really like booking.com. It's never let me down. So that's the one I'm going to show you for this example. We're going to download the booking app if we haven't already got it. And then on the main page, we know that we arrive on the 6th of December. So we're going to pick maybe just 3 nights for the time being. 1 adult in 1 room, Bali, Indonesia, and search. Now if we look on the map view, we'll find where the airport is, which is here. We're going to book somewhere just quite close by, just while we're finding our feet, getting used to the culture, working out what we want to do while we're in Bali. So Seminyak is a very, very touristy part of Bali. Wasn't my favourite place, but it's actually walking distance from the airport. So when we landed in Bali, we stayed in Seminyak. We stayed there for a few days. Wasn't our favourite place in Bali, but it's a good base to start your trip. There's lots of tour agencies there. You can book buses to Ubud or to the north or to the Gili Islands. I've done videos on this before. So for the 3 nights in Seminyak, I'm going to list from low to high. So this is the price for 3 nights. So you're thinking, wow, £2 for 3 nights, what kind of place is that going to be? Accommodation in Bali is super duper cheap. So for this example, I'm showing you the way to do it super, super cheap. But if you've got a lot of money, go and splash out. You can get a pool villa for £30 a night. These lovely resort spa hotels are going to be really, really cheap compared to what you'd pay at home. So it depends what your budget is. But I'm just going to have a look for a super duper 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 budget option. And oh, this one looks good. So £8. It's got 8.3 on the reviews. Having a look at the pictures, it looks really, really fun. It's got a pool. Rooms look really nice. It's got good food. It's got air conditioning. And if we have a look at this, it's got free cancellation as well. So honestly, what more could you want? You've got a bed, you've got air conditioning, you can cancel it if you want, and it's £8 for 3 nights. So that's super duper cheap, and I would be booking this option. You can spend all day looking through all these options and finding the one that works for you. But for this example, I'm showing you how to do it super duper cheap. How I would travel is super duper cheap, because where I sleep at night, it honestly doesn't matter. I'm there to explore. I'm not there to enjoy my room. So personally, I wouldn't be spending tons and tons of money on my accommodation. I would be keeping my budget to £4 per night. You're thinking, we can't possibly do that. I've just showed you. This was less than £4 per night, and it looks really, really nice. Let's just have a look at a few more options just while we're looking at the cheap ones. What you can do is go to the filters and then select places that are only rated 8 or above. And then you can click places that have got breakfast included and press show results. You can see all of these places have got breakfast included, and they're £6, so that's £2 a night, that top one. Just super duper cheap. So that's what we're going to do to book all of our rooms in Bali. So I've showed you how you're going to book all of your accommodation on Hostel World while you're in Australia, and I've showed you how you're going to use booking.com to book your accommodation in Bali, and I've showed you how you can make use of something as simple as this to really make the trip easier to plan. And it is that easy to plan. What I've just spoken to you about through this short video is everything you need to know to plan this backpacking trip. Now, the budgets I've used for food and rooms are £10 a night for Australia for a room, £4 a night in Bali for a room, and then £6 a day in Bali for food, which will be absolutely easily done, and £10 a day in Australia, which if you're having breakfast at the hostel, if you make a little sandwich from the breakfast stuff at the hostel to have for your lunch, then you only really have to buy a dinner. And if you go to a supermarket and buy a packet of noodles, some rice, some few vegetables to put into instant noodles, you can live so cheap. Now some of you might be thinking, but I don't want to do that. And that's fine, you're just going to need a bigger budget. But this is how you can do it for cheap. And a lot of people aren't traveling to enjoy the food, to stay in nice rooms. A lot of people want to see the country, and when I travel I want to see the country. I want to be involved in the culture. I want to eat with the people on the street and eat from the cheap local vendors, and this is how you're going to travel for really cheap. So for this example, with the budgets that I've just discussed, this entire trip is going to cost £2,137, and that's for your flights, your bus pass, your accommodation and your food. If you stick to the budget that I mentioned, which is a very tight budget, but it's very doable. Obviously, it's a 2-month trip. It's gonna cost you more than that probably to exist at home. Most people's rent costs them £800 a month. People eat out all the time at home. They've got petrol and car things to pay for. Relatively, it's actually amazing. If you didn't have a house or you didn't have a flat, you could travel around Australia for cheaper than you could just exist at home. Thank you for listening this far. If you have any questions about anything that I've said, please ask below. And if you're interested in my website, please let me know. I'm gonna have a little membership area, and initially that's going to be free for maybe the first however many people, so they can give me feedback and give me some tips on how it could be improved and what they think its value is really. So thank you again for listening. I really enjoy making these videos, and I will be making more soon. I'm just focusing on the website at the moment, but there's some really exciting things to come, and I cannot wait to show everything to you. So thanks again. Give me a subscribe and a like if you haven't already.